The world of business consulting well, it's pretty crowded. So, what does it take for a company to really stand out? Today, we're diving into a firm called RE Holdings Consulting, or RHC for short. They claim they have a totally new model for business transformation. So, let's break down what they do and see if it's genuinely a new way of thinking. All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got four parts. First, we'll get into their core philosophy, what really makes them tick. Then, we'll look at the specific services they offer. After that, we'll meet the key players on the team who make it all happen. And we'll wrap things up with the ultimate test, what their clients actually have to say. Let's jump in. Okay, first up, a different kind of partner. Look, before we get into what RHC does, it's so important to understand why they do it. It's their whole philosophy that supposedly sets them apart from everyone else. And this quote right here, this gets right to the heart of their entire pitch. RHC is basically saying their secret sauce isn't some fancy new technology or a rigid process. It's people. The whole idea is that real, lasting change can only happen when you empower the employees who are already there. Now, this slide, this really draws a line in the sand. Over on the left, you've got the old school model. A consultant comes in, drops off a binder full of solutions, and then walks away. But on the right, you see RHC's model. They talk about co-creating strategies with you. The goal isn't a quick fix. It's about building a long-term partnership that delivers real, measurable results. So let's move on to our next section and see how this all works in practice. We've talked about the philosophy, the why. So now let's get into the what, the actual services that are the foundation of everything they do. RHC's expertise is built on what they call four distinct pillars. First up is data analytics, finding the real story hidden in all the numbers. Second, there's solution architecture, which is all about designing the technical blueprint for the future. Third, project management, to make sure that plan gets executed perfectly. And finally, the project management office, or PMO, which makes sure there are high-quality standards across the board. These four things together are the engine that drives their whole transformation model. And they're applying this expertise in some seriously complex industries. We're talking financial services, general insurance, and the legal sector. Working in these high-stakes, highly regulated fields means they have to navigate some major compliance and security hurdles, which really says a lot about the robustness of their approach. So we've got the philosophy and we've got the services. But who are the people actually doing the work? That brings us right to Section 3, meeting the key roles that make up the transformation team. This is all about the how. First up is a role that's absolutely crucial. They have to be the bridge between the world of business and the world of technology, the solution architect. Think of the solution architect as the master planner, maybe even the chief architect of a new building. They don't just pick some off-the-shelf software. They design a complete technical blueprint that lines up perfectly with a company's biggest goals. This is so important because it ensures that technology is serving the business and not the other way around. Okay, so you've got that blueprint. Now you need a builder, right? This is exactly where the project manager comes in, turning that plan from just paper into a reality. This is the person who makes it all happen. They take the architect's vision, manage all the resources, and navigate all the moving parts to get to the finish line. They're the central hub for communication, and it's their job to keep everything and everyone on track. But what happens when you're not just doing one project, but juggling multiple, really complex projects all at once? How do you keep things consistent and see the big picture? Well, that's the very specific job of the PMO manager. The PMO manager, you can think of them as the conductor of a whole orchestra of projects. They might not be playing an instrument themselves, but they make sure everyone is playing from the same sheet music. By standardizing how things are done and looking at the entire portfolio, they aim to lift the quality of outcomes across the whole organization. And finally, we have the role that turns chaos into clarity, the person who finds the signal in all that noise, the data analyst. Look, in today's world, data is absolutely everything. But raw data, it's pretty much useless. The data analyst is the translator. They dive into these massive data sets, find the patterns, and turn them into insights you can actually use. Insights that help a business make smarter decisions and get that competitive edge. Okay, so we've seen the philosophy, we've seen the services, and we've met the team. But here's the billion-dollar question. Does it all actually work? For our final section, let's look at the proof. Because at the end of the day, the real test of any model is what the clients themselves have to say about it. This first testimonial from a lead data engineer really hits on that client-focused idea we talked about earlier. The key phrase here is understand and meet client needs. That points to a process of really listening and creating something tailored, not just forcing a prepackaged solution on someone. Transformation projects are always complex. This next quote from a head of a contact center shows how RHC seems to cut through all that noise with transparency and clear, simple leadership. That combination is absolutely crucial for getting everybody on board and keeping them there for the long haul. And this final piece of feedback, this time from a creative executive, seems to wrap it all up nicely. It highlights two key things: a commitment to excellence, that's that drive to just deliver great work, and an innovative approach, which really reinforces that idea of building new strategies together, not just recycling old ones. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the bottom line? RHC's model seems to be all about a really powerful combination. They bring the expert services, data, architecture, project management, but they deliver it all through this partnership-driven, people-first philosophy. The goal isn't just to help companies react to change, but to help them get out in front of it and actually lead it. And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. In this world that's changing so fast, is your organization just responding to change as it comes, or are you truly ready to lead it? That's definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for tuning into this explainer.